Hi, and welcome to Off the Shelf with Christine and Katie. Today, we were going to be discussing some summer read books that we personally have read and highly recommend to you. These are not necessarily new books, though some of them are, and they are not your typical summer romance reads. These are ones that we've read over the years. We loved reading them during the summer, and we find them to be what we call, simple summer reads. We define those summer books as like almost a light reading. They take you on a wild ride, not too much that you have to really think about. They're
basically
simple.
just fun, simple books that we love during the summer.
And then you can enjoy them in the summer and
or basically whenever of year.
Exactly.
But when you don't want to think too much and enjoy your summer, these are books that we recommend.
So we hope you enjoy the books as much as we did. The first book we wanted to recommend is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. Now, we have mentioned this book in previous videos. It is a science fiction fantasy that we enjoyed. It takes place in France, 1714. In a moment of desperation, a young woman makes a Faustian bargain to live forever and is cursed to be forgotten by everyone she meets. That's where it begins, and that is the start of her extraordinary life as she goes through the decades and centuries to modern day. I found it to just be a really enjoyable story.
Yes, It's a really great read. Like the people she meets and everything, I liked her story. I always want a little bit more, so it left me a little lacking, but overall I really enjoyed it, and her story was great. And hey, V. Schwab, if you want to come out with a sequel, I'm here for you.
Very interesting to learn how she survived with people forgetting her for so long.
Yes.
Learn a little bit of history of the period she was in, and then we come into modern day.
Yes.
And how she ultimately works around her and with her Faustian deal.
Exactly. So highly recommend, cannot recommend it enough, frankly.
The next one we have here is The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. This is considered a historical fiction. It is mainly fiction.
It's mainly considered fiction, but I kind of viewed it more of the historical fiction because it goes between 2 points in time.
Right. So we go back. Hidden in the depths of 18th century London, a secret apothecary shop caters to an unusual clientele. Women across the city whisper of a mysterious figure named Nella who sells well-disguised potions to use against the oppressive men in their lives. That is the past story. In between chapters, we go from there to present-day London. Aspiring historian Caroline spends her 10th wedding anniversary alone, running from her own demons. When she stumbles upon a clue to the unsolved apothecary murders that haunted London 200 years ago, her life collides with the apothecaries in a stunning twist of fate. And not everyone will survive.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. One of the things I enjoyed about this, one of the things I like about summer reads, short chapters. It's a silly thing, but somehow if you just have a few minutes, you're just relaxing, you might want to doze off for a nap, you read a quick chapter or two and you have fun.
Right. And I will say this is like I feel like the epitome of an easy read.
Yeah.
Like you read a couple pages, and if you leave it for a week and come back, you won't really lose where you left off.
But I still felt the characters. I was very invested in what happened to them. So I did think it was well written in that sense. I liked learning a little bit about apothecaries back then, and situations women found themselves in that they would want to possibly visit this type of apothecary.
Yeah. And the way the author writes, I feel like was just so detailed that I could literally imagine it in my head.
Yeah.
I saw it like a movie playing. So
exactly.
I really recommend it for even just the visual like things that you see. Mm-hmm. Like, well, you'll think about.
And you might see it somewhat listed in some places as a historical fiction fantasy, and there's really not a lot of fantasy or magic to it. I
don't know why it would be described as fantasy.
Yeah, it's definitely historical fiction fantasy.
Yes.
Historical fiction. Exactly. Now, the next one we have here is oldie but a goodie. This is Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, which is a mystery. I'm going to let Katie talk about this because this is one of her summer read picks. It's actually one of my to be read classics. So I'm really interested to hear what she has to say.
Yes, but is classic, but the best classic. Mm-hmm. So last night I dreamt I went to Mandalay again. And so just a description of this book really quick. The novel begins in Monte Carlo, where our heroine is swept off by her feet by the dashing widower Maximum de Winter and his sudden proposal of marriage. Orphaned and working as a lady's maid, she can barely believe her luck. It is only when they arrive at his massive country estate that she realizes how large a shadow his late wife will cast over their lives, presenting her with a lingering evil that threatens to destroy their marriage from beyond the grave. I put this in here because it's one of those things where I do read every summer just because it is a very easy read, but it's also not lacking in substance. It's a very interesting read. And it is I feel like the book that Daphne du Maurier is most known for, but is basically one of those, like the epitome of a Gothic tale. It is very interesting and involves the dark shadow. Like if you love dark shadows or anything like that, it's a very like, it has the Gothic castle, it has the mystery, and there's also like a little bit of a mystery woven in here with his ex-wife, and there's a bit of a history that he doesn't tell our protagonist. So we're just as in the dark as she is in the beginning. So that's very interesting. And even in the beginning, what's funny about this novel is the protagonist actually doesn't want to be known by her own name, so it's never revealed in the novel because almost kind of she wants to distance herself in her story. Very interesting, but not lacking in substance. And it's a very like easy read. Like once you start, you can't stop. And I do like that about a summer read where you don't have to think too much and it takes you on a nice ride. I like this book for that. So recommend entirely.
All right. So, and I'll tell you a little bit more why I have a classic on my TBR list later on. Next one we have here is one that I'm currently reading. It's House of the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. It is a fiction. It is a fantasy fiction, and surprisingly, it's not a teen book. You might think it when you hear some of the description.
Also, when you look at the cover.
And the cover, exactly. It's a magical island, dangerous task, burning secret. Linus Baker leads a quiet, solitary life. At 40, he lives in a tiny house with a devious cat and his old records. He's a caseworker at the department in charge of magical youth. He spends his days overseeing the well-being of children in government-sanctioned orphanages. When Linus is unexpectedly summoned by extremely upper management, he's given a curious and highly classified assignment. Travel to Marcias Island Orphanage, where 6 dangerous children reside: a gnome, a sprite, a wyvern, an unidentifiable green blob, and a were-Pomeranian, and the Antichrist. So we have a little bit in here, obviously.
You see why I thought this was a teen book.
Yes, you would normally think it, but it's not. I am currently about 50 pages into the book. I'm enjoying the writing style. It's easy to read. It's fun. It has those magical elements. If you're somebody who likes fantasy, this would be a good book for you. But it also deals with discovering what it is to be family and an unlikely family in an unexpected place. So
especially with what an odd family it sounds
it's
like.
a very odd family. So I'm recommending it based on how I'm enjoying it. Hopefully I'll be getting through that one very quickly. It's definitely one of those quick reads. Next one we have here is 8 Perfect Murders by Peter Swanson, and it's a mystery. I am also currently reading this book. I tend to read a couple at a time. And this one was recommended to me by Katie. So she's going to tell you a little bit more about it. Just so you know, I'm already getting wrapped up in all the mystery that's going on in it.
Yeah, so I really like this book, so I wanted to put it up as a summer reads option because the story is very interesting. And I got to read it in advance before it went to publication, and I loved it. And we have many copies here because it's a part of our mystery book club pick back in May. And my group did like it, so I highly recommend it. But it just as a short description, it's years ago. Bookseller and mystery aficionado Malcolm Kershaw compiled a list of the genre's most unsolvable murders. Those are amongst impossible to crack, which he entitled 8 Perfect Murders, chosen from from the best of the best, including Agatha Christie's The ABC Murders, Patricia Highsmith's Strangers on a Train, Ira Levin's A Death Trap, A.L. Minn's Red House Mystery. Yes, she wrote Reading the Pooh, but she wrote a mystery first, so ha! Anthony Berkeley Cox, Malice Aforethought, James McCain's Double Indemnity, John D. McDonald's The Drowner, and Donna Tartt's A Secret History. But no one more surprised than Mao, now that the owner of the Old Devil's bookstore in Boston, when an FBI agent comes knocking on the door one snowy day in February. She's looking for information about a series of unsolved murders that look eerily similar to the killings on Old Mao's list. And that is the kickoff of the book. And there is a twist that I don't want to spoil, but it is very interesting. And it sucks you into his story, and you get to realize things about his past that make him kind of shady. And you don't know whether he's a hero or the villain. And that kind of kept me on my toes, and I really like this book.
Yes. That's speaking of Agatha Christie, as mentioned, that leads us to our next book. Again, this is one that we brought up because this was one
and
of those
that you're reading right now.
And
right?
I'm reading right now again. It's one of those most anticipated books from the spring, The Mystery of Mrs Christie by Marie Benedict. It's a mystery, it's a historical fiction, it's a little bit of both. It deals with, I'll give you a little description here. December 1926, England unleashes the largest manhunt in its history. The object of the search is not an escaped convict or World War criminal, but the missing wife of a World War I hero, up-and-coming mystery author Agatha Christie. When her car is found wrecked, empty, and abandoned near Natural Spring, the country is in a frenzy. 11 days later, Agatha reappears, claiming amnesia, provides no answers for her disappearance. That is until she writes a very strange book about a missing woman, a murderous husband, and a plan to expose the truth. Now, this is another book, like I said previously, has those short chapters, reads like an Agatha Christie book, which I'm really enjoying. The chapters alternate between the manuscript and the actual disappearance. And Agatha Christie did actually disappear for those 11 days in her life. And still to this day, nobody knows where she was. So that's why I said it's a little bit of historical fiction. Marie Benedict was also the author of The Other Einstein, which was the story of Einstein's wife. So she handles these subjects really well. And
I've actually seen a lot of other books written about the same topic, and I still think to this day she wanted a vacation and just didn't want to tell anyone.
She needed a vacation.
Yes,
well,
but
maybe.
Because she's a mystery, she can't just do anything for 11 days.
I won't give away the manuscript completely that she's writing about, but if it is based on her husband, maybe there was a very good reason she wanted to get away for a little bit.
And there's a similar book to this also called The Christie Curse. I don't know the author on top of my head, but she did a very similar plotline where they tried to they think she wrote a play in those 11 days, and it's them going to go find this play, and there's a murder based around it. But that one's a quick read as well if anyone's interested in that. I'll link the name of the author below.
Next up on our list is an oldie but a goodie, The Giver by Lois Lowry, and it's fiction. Now, this is a young adult book, but it's such a great book. It's a haunting story that centers on 12-year-old Jonas, who lives in a seemingly ideal, if colorless, world of conformity and contentment. Not until he is given his life assignment as the receiver of memory does he begin to understand the dark, complex secrets behind his fragile community. So many years later, and it still reads well. I reread this myself every year or so.
I do as well, because I actually read this as, ironically, high school summer reading, but this is one that I've still read since then, and there has been sequels, but nothing has really been as comparable as this one.
Right.
And honestly, it makes me love it, because you just realize suddenly the importance of color.
Yes.
And I do have it here as a summer reading, because as sometimes like the subject matter can be difficult to read, but I will say it's very light, and it intrigues me into the story that I love reading it every summer, because I still learn new things each time. And it's a very interesting book, and you will not be the same person.
So if you're someone who likes dystopian type novels, this would be a really good one. And another little perk is, if you have kids, it is kind of still on summer reading list, so you can read it together.
But it's also just so good that I feel like it doesn't matter the age range. Like, it's perfect for anyone.
So next up, we have Snug, a collection of comics about dating your best friend by Katana Chuland. And this is a graphic novel that Katie's read. I have not read this myself, so
yes. I just want to mention before I do a description, is on our service. But as she mentioned, Snug is a collection of comics about dating your friend. She has done numerous other ones since, but this is the one we have in our Hoopla service. But if you also follow her Instagram at Katana, I believe it's still Katana Chuland. There's a lot of other cute comics she does daily. But this one is about why bother getting out of bed when you can stay bundled up with that special someone in a book of cozy, cute comics. And once again, it's a collection of comics that perfectly captures the honest, playful, and relatable snapshots of romantic life. And this is Chulin's second book that has the same charming and inviting style as her first. It includes 50% new, never before shared comics. And it's so funny because it's just everyday life with like your significant other. That's just funny. Those weird things that you don't think anyone else does with their significant other. She shows it in a hilarious way. And her drawing style is just so innocent. It's just very easy to go through. It's light and quirky, but she's so funny and relatable that I had to put it in here because it's so funny. So I highly recommend her art and her work. It's very good. So I'll link her Instagram below as well, because she posts every day, like I said. It's just funny, light stuff. So I wanted to throw it in here.
Humor is always good in the summertime.
Yes.
Lastly, we have Shadow and Bone series by Leah Bardago. It is a fantasy world building. Now, this is a young adult series, but if you are someone who likes that whole world building type fantasy, this is a great summer read because it's well written, but it's easy. It has its own mythology and creatures and history built up in this world that she's created. Little synopsis: orphaned by the border wars, Elena Starkov is taken from obscurity and her only friend Mal to become the protege of the mysterious Darkling, who trains her to join the magical elite in the belief that she is the Sun Summoner who can destroy the monsters of the fold. Some of you may have seen on Netflix. It's a current series. It combines this book with another book in the Grisha world, the Six of Crows. They were some of my favorite characters in the movie. But it's just one of those world building when you don't want to have to really sit there and really pay attention and dig into all the history, that you could read this and very much enjoy it. You can go back and watch the movie at a later day. This particular book, in addition to why I have a classic on my TBR list, is, if you're unaware, the library currently has Beanstack reading challenges. The Grishaverse is one of the challenges going on, but currently the longest one is the Middletown Centennial Challenge. And there's a lot of different reading prompts and activities that you could do and get entered into prizes for free books, some merchandise. So if you're somebody who likes doing those kind of reading challenges, it's really simple to record in your app. Those happen to be ones, an idea of some of the type things you'll find in there. And we will link to the page on the website that'll explain a little bit more about the Beanstack challenges. It's not just for the children's summer reading. There's a lot of challenges in there for adults, and there will be monthly challenges going forward. So give it a try. Might be fun.
And it's fun, and the prizes are actually really unique and great. We won't spoil them, but they're pretty fun. Yeah. But I think the books also are part of the enjoyment.
So those are our fun picks for summer reading. Then when you want to just kick back and enjoy, we hope you find one that you like too. Please feel free to let us know if you enjoy them. If you enjoyed them, yeah. We will have a link below to our book recommendations page where you can find some more great reads, more summer fun, and hope to hear from you soon. Hopefully you'll find yourself a great new read, and we'll look forward to seeing you next month on Off the Shelf with Christine and Katie. Take care.
All right, take care.
Bye.